So a couple of days ago, our officers were out on patrol in the graveyard shift, and they were aware of an individual that had a couple of outstanding arrest warrants, and they saw him in our downtown core area. So when they tried to find him, he eluded them initially, and then they were able to locate him at a small park a short time later. And they've had previous contacts with this gentleman, so they know a little bit about him and how he reacts to his contacts with law enforcement. And generally, in the past, he's just really been cantankerous with our officers, with people in the our customers, our visitors to our community. So he's just not real cooperative in general. So when they contacted him on this evening, they initially tell him, "Hey, you have a couple of arrest warrants we have a couple of warrants for your arrest." And you can see in the video that he balks about that, and says, "No, I don't." When it's determined that he's actually going to be arrested, he says, "I'm not going to jail tonight." And he turns his back and starts to walk away from the officers. So just like our training and consistent with our training and our policies here, we have them use this device early in the contact so it prevents us from having to use higher levels of force, like we've talked about many times. And so exactly as it was designed to be used, they deploy the device right around the lower legs. He hears that loud sound go off, and that distracts him. He turns around right away, and he feels that the pressure to his lower body. The officers actually put their hands on him, and then you'll hear him say right away, okay, I'll go with you. So his attitude completely changed once the device contains his movement. They grab onto him. He's immediately compliant. And then, of course, once the handcuffs go on, then again, he starts in with a whole verbal tirade, complete non-compliance. But the bottom line here is that we, again, took somebody into custody without having to use higher levels of force, subject our officers and the individual to any kind of injury. And we're able to safely walk him down the street, put him in the police car, and then on his way to jail. That's exactly what we are hoping to get from the device. And so far in our experience, that's exactly what's been delivered. Had we not had this device, or before we ever had a device like this, and somebody's walking away like that, then, the officers can't use pepper spray because he's moving away from them. So then their only other force options might be either a police baton or a taser. And both of those bring a significant amount of pain and potential for injury. So here again, that minimizes the risk to the officers and the civil liability to the organization, should we have to do that, because of course there's injury and then some medical treatment that would follow up with that. So we do, our training is repetitive. We stay concurrent, contemporaneous with the policies and the practices that you all provide for us. So we're very proud of the officers. And I would like to highlight that one of the officers that you see, the actual officer you see in the video, is the one who was in the first deployment, where you see them talking through that event, and giving them plenty of warning, much like you see here. So he actually has a couple of experiences now with the device in a field situation. Does a fantastic job.
And a question, Chief, on your policy, with a gentleman like this just walking away, would they have been authorized to use those intermediate or higher levels of force?
I think, knowing that he had 2 confirmed arrest warrants for himself, that I probably would agree that they probably would have had to use force had they chosen not to go hands-on first and try to direct him to the ground. As you see in the video, he's got a number of things with him, a whole bunch of equipment and things. So he's an unsecured individual. His access to weapons is unknown at that point. So either they would have had to direct him to the ground or use some kind of kinetic energy or taser or, again, a police baton.
And Mario, we talk about that a lot, about what does constitute that higher level. And this tool is enabling officers not to have to make that decision. And Mario, you've talked about that a lot, with this becoming primary and the taser becoming secondary, where before taser was primary and maybe a firearm was secondary.
Yeah, and I think this situation kind of lends itself, in your favor, because he did have an arrest warrant. So they were justified to use those other options. But many times, like 90% of the time when cops deal with subjects, we don't know what he's wanted for, but we know he's potentially combative, and that could potentially be the most dangerous guy. We don't know where he's going. So we want to find out where he's going from a distance.
Agreed. He declares his intentions early on, where he says, "I'm not going to jail tonight." So clearly he's preparing himself to, combat the officers one way or the other, but he's not going to comply with their commands or their direction.
Well, it sounds like they used really, really good de-escalation, because they were probably justified to use the other tools, like you mentioned earlier, and they didn't. They chose to use this, which is, causes no injury, taken into custody. I say all the time that the problem with the BolaWrap is that when used early in the intervention, you'll never know how bad the situation could have gotten. We'll never have a bad video to compare it to, because it was solved, without injury.
Absolutely. So we're not in the position where we have that 20/20, that hindsight, or that quarterbacking, well, why didn't you try this? Or why didn't you try? Because it never gets to that point.
Exactly.
So our mantra here, much like BolaWrap, through our training and master instructor program, is to tell the officers, the end users, use these early and often in the context so we don't get into a situation where somebody's getting injured, or try at least give the opportunity for it to resolve that situation early before we have to be in a situation with higher levels of force applications.